The stars were dying. Flames spread across the galaxy like a sickness. Planets burned, moons cracked, and ancient empires vanished without a sound. The war was not between two sides. It was between everything that lived and the Korak horde. The Korak were not born. They were built, machines and flesh twisted together. No face, no heart, no voice. They came in endless waves, like black storms. They did not speak, ask, or stop. They consumed. One world after another, no one knew where they came from. Some believed they were created long ago, lost by a forgotten race. Others whispered darker things, that the Korak were older than the stars, waiting in the dark. Now they were awake. The fall of Delvana Prime. The story begins with a scream. Delvana Prime was once a bright world full of floating cities and golden towers. Its sky was filled with music and trade ships. It was a proud jewel of the Galactic Assembly. It was gone in 11 minutes. The Korak fleet arrived without warning. Over 700 ships. Their black metal hulls pulsed with red veins. They didn't use normal weapons. They used gravity tears, ripping space apart and pulling cities into the sky. Millions died in seconds. Defense systems shut down. No one could explain why. The last message from the Delvana Council was only 3 words. They are here. And then silence. The panic spreads that the Galactic Assembly on the star station Veralia 6, hundreds of species gathered. Hall was filled with shouting. The Bracken wanted to use their remaining dreadnoughts. The Zalari wanted to surrender and hide in deep space. The Growlins suggested launching a planet killer at the Korak. None of it mattered. Every plan had already failed somewhere else. Chairs floated. Lights blinked. The assembly was in chaos then. The Jarl ambassador stood up. Her long fingers shook. He sent 12 fleets. All gone. We lost 3 sectors in 2 days. They are not fighting us. They are erasing us. That was when someone said it. Where is Earth? The room went quiet. Earth's silence for months. Earth had stayed silent. Humans were members of the assembly, but they had not sent fleets or joined the meetings. They'd only sent short messages. Do not call us unless there is no hope. Now it was clear. There was no hope. A transmission was sent to Earth. This time Earth answered, but they didn't send warships. They didn't send bombs or soldiers. They sent a shuttle. One man no-named the shuttle arrived 3 days later. It was small, gray, with no symbols. It docked without a sound. Inside, there was only one man. He was human, tall, quiet, and calm. No weapons, no armor. He wore a plain black coat with no markings. His eyes were gray, empty like smoke. His skin was pale, almost silver under the light. No one knew his name. He walked into the Galactic Council chamber alone. The guards raised their weapons, but something stopped them. The air grew heavy. The lights flickered. One Growlin officer dropped his rifle and whispered, That can't be him. No one dared speak louder. The man sat down. He said nothing. Whispers in the council. The assembly did not know what to do. They asked questions. The man did not respond. Are you a soldier? No answer. Is Earth sending more ships? Nothing. What is your mission? Silence. The Bracken slammed a metal fist on the table. Is this some joke? Earth sends one. Man, when worlds are dying? The human slowly looked at him. No anger, no threat, just a look. The Bracken stopped speaking. He sat down and didn't say another word. The rest of the council stared at the human. Some were confused, some were afraid. The Jarl ambassador leaned close to her assistant and whispered, There's an old story, a human weapon, a man who ended a war with one word. They said he was locked away forever. The assistant looked at her, shaking. You think it's him? She didn't answer. The countdown begins back in space. The Korak fleet was closing in. 10 systems remained between them and the assembly core worlds. Their massive black vessels were like shadows, eating light. The largest ship was the size of a moon. Sensors failed to read them. Scanners returned static. No messages, no demands, only Destruction. Every hour, another star system went dark. The assembly sent desperate calls for reinforcements. No one answered. The human said nothing. He only watched eyes that remembered an old alien named Kalen, once a general during the Blood Wars, entered the chamber. His skin was dry and cracked like stone. His eyes locked on the human and he froze. He dropped to one knee. "That's him," he whispered. "I saw him once, 100 years ago." He stood on a battlefield alone. The sky turned red. And then, silence. "Who is he?" the council leader asked. Colin's voice broke. They called him codename Silence. The final message from Earth at that moment, a new message arrived. It was from Earth. A simple line. "He speaks only once." Confusion spread across the room. What does that mean? Is this a trick? Speak about what? The human still sat still, eyes closed now, breathing slow. The room grew cold. A screen lit up. The Korak fleet had entered the last defense zone. All hope was lost, and the man had not moved. Ending. Scene. The eyes opened then, in the last moment of the meeting. The human opened his eyes. For the first time, he looked directly into the cameras. Not just at the council, but at the entire galaxy. His gaze was deep, like staring into something far beyond space or time. He stood. He still said nothing, but far away. In the dark edge of space, one Korak ship exploded, not from weapons. From attack, it simply broke, silently, without reason. Then another, then 3 more. The screen filled with red alerts. The assembly stared. The human turned, walked back to his seat, still silent. He had no name, no rank, no badge. But when he walked into the council, every voice stopped, and far away, enemy started to retreat. The war room was filled with high-ranking leaders from over 100 star systems. Every species was represented: tall, armored Bracken generals, floating Zalari priests, glass-eyed Suri tacticians. Maps of war zones flickered in the air. Voices rose. Panic spread. But one presence silenced them all. The human he stood near. The edge of the room, facing no one in particular. Yet it felt like he was watching everything. A Growlin admiral leaned forward and asked, "Does he even have a name?" Another whispered, "Earth never said." No one knew what to do with him. He was not on the records. He held no title, had no translator, no armor, no weapon. And yet, no one dared order him out. The old warrior's warning in the back of the chamber, General Colin once, a war hero from the Blood Wars, watched with heavy eyes. He had seen too much. He had heard too many stories. And now he recognized the face. "That's him," Kalen said quietly to his aide. "The last voice, the one they locked away." His aide looked around, confused. "Sir, what voice?" Kalen didn't respond. Instead, he pointed toward the wall where the map of the Korak front flickered red. Then he looked at the human. "He's not a soldier. He's not a diplomat." He lowered his voice to a whisper. "He's a command weapon." Broken rules, the Zalari high priest floated closer to the human and asked, "Are you here to negotiate?" No reply. "Do you come with terms from Earth?" Still no answer. The priest's glow dimmed. "Why won't you speak?" Suddenly the Bracken commander growled. "He's wasting time. This is an insult. If Earth has a weapon, use it. If not, send someone who can speak." The human turned, slowly, one movement. No rush, but it felt like gravity changed with it. The lights flickered. The Bracken froze. He couldn't move. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. His guards stumbled backward. The human didn't blink then, just as slowly. He looked away. The Bracken collapsed to his knees, gasping. He didn't speak again for the rest of the day. Earth's silence breaks at that moment. A signal arrived from Earth. Encrypted. Tight band. No visuals. Just a sentence. If he speaks before the final moment, the war is lost. The council members looked at each other, confused and afraid. What does that mean? Final moment of what? Is he dangerous? A voice responded from Earth Command. He is not dangerous. He is extinction. This is our last defense. And then, silence again. The Korak's sudden retreat meanwhile. In the deep edges of space, on the front line, something strange happened. The Korak fleet, which had been pressing forward non-stop, suddenly stopped. Scout drones recorded images of large war beasts turning in circles. Confused, one dreadship exploded without being touched. No enemy fire, no malfunction, just sudden implosion. Across 3 systems, Korak signals broke into static. No pattern, no command. And then one strange message was intercepted in the Korak's own data stream. It has awakened. No one could explain it, but they all felt it. Something had changed. Files that were never meant to be opened, desperate for answers. The young diplomat Thalon, from the peaceful R'Lani race, broke. Assembly protocol. She hacked into Earth's deepest war archives using forbidden backdoors and black market keys. What she found chilled her blood. A file marked Class E. Do not release. Inside were broken words. Test logs, death reports. One document said, Subject 0 to 1 issued a single spoken phrase. Result: collapse of neural activity in every test subject within 12.4 astronomical units. Another file: exposure to a full sentence caused dimensional instability. Wormholes appeared without origin. Time slowed for 5 seconds across the entire sector. The final line: codename, silence, status, sealed indefinitely. Use only when surrender is worse than extinction. The silent one watches back in the war room. Humans still stood still. He had not blinked in minutes. The star map showed the Korak moving in strange patterns. Some fleets breaking off, some going silent. Ambassadors grew nervous. He hasn't done anything, one said, but they're breaking. No, said Kalan. He is doing something. They just didn't understand how final scene. A name almost spoken as the council debated what to do. One older ambassador from the deep, space race known as the Nyari, stood and spoke. I remember that voice. I heard it once, long ago, before my people fell. He turned to the human. You spoke then, just one word, and every sun on the battlefield dimmed. The chamber went silent. Will you speak again? The human looked at him. Just looked. The Nyari ambassador bowed low. Then he sat down. The room remained silent. Everyone waited, but the human said nothing. And yet, on the battlefield, 5 more Korak dreadships exploded. Buried deep in Earth's oldest war records was a warning. If the subject speaks, reality may bend. Now, the files are open again because the galaxy has no choice. The war was still burning. Systems near the edge of the galactic core were being swallowed by the Korak. One after another, the lights on the assembly's war map flickered out. The enemy was coming closer fast and still. The human sat quietly at the center of the council chamber. He hadn't moved, he hadn't spoken, but something was happening. The Korak were hesitating, ships malfunctioned, the formations broke. The invincible swarm was cracking, and the assembly still had no idea why. Diplomat Thalon's Miss Yen Thalon, a young alien diplomat from the peaceful R'Lani species, couldn't sleep. Her world was already gone, destroyed by the Korak 6 weeks ago. She had nothing left except questions. Why did Earth send just one man? Why did the most feared enemy in the galaxy start retreating the moment he arrived? And why was Earth warning everyone not to make him speak? She had heard the whispers. She remembered the strange message. He speaks only once. So Thalon made a choice. She broke into the Assembly's restricted archives, specifically Earth's old war database. The files had been sealed for over 300 years. She expected security locks. She did not expect this much fear. The tin archive deep within the archive. Thalon found a file labeled Project Silence, do not reopen under any circumstance. Was protected by 9 encryption walls. Some were military grade. Others were laced with Earth's own ancient language. It's the kind few even remembered how to read. Thalon bypassed them all. Inside, she found blurry documents, corrupted recordings, and warning tags stamped in red. Experimental weapon. Risk. Voice level, threat classification. Omega. There were reports of tests, each more disturbing than the last. Test 019, subject whispered a phrase. 43 observers suffered sudden brain failure, surveillance tech distorted. Several timestamp errors logged. Test 035, subject spoke one word in anger. Multiple objects across the room accelerated, then disintegrated. No physical source identified. Test 042, subject used full sentence. Black hole formed in atmosphere chamber. 12-mile radius erased. At the end of the file, one name appeared again and again. Subject Elias Creed. Who was Elias Creed? Thalon ran a deep identity search. The name had been wiped from every human record. No family, no birthplace, no military history, only a note in a forgotten psychology report. Elias Creed's voice triggers nonlinear effects. Not merely speaking, he is reshaping. Another file had just one line. If he speaks in war again, we may win, but the galaxy may never be the same. The decision to bury him, the most haunting document of all, was a council order from Earth. Project Silence is too dangerous. He will be placed in cryostasis on isolated Moonred 3. Under no condition is he to be reactivated even if Earth falls. So why now? Why did Earth break their own rule? Thalon stared at the last message Earth sent when the human arrived. You called us. Now you must listen. He speaks when the war must end. Meanwhile, at the warfront, a Korak battleship the size of a mountain approached Sector Harn-12. It's the last defense before the Assembly's homeworlds. The defenders prepared to make a final stand, but the Korak didn't attack. Instead, their weapons turned on themselves. Drones began crashing. Command units tore themselves apart. One of their warbeasts screamed so loudly, communications across 5 systems failed. The only message from their side was a single word: it awakens. Panic in the assembly back in the council chamber. Fear spread. Not because the human had done something, because he still hadn't. The alien ambassadors argued in loud voices. He must be stopped. We need to use him before it's too late. Earth is hiding something. This is a trick. But General Kalen stood and slammed his hand on the table. Enough, he growled. You don't understand what you're dealing with. He turned to the others and said, I saw Elias Creed once, during the Blood Wars. He spoke to stop a battle. He pointed to the ceiling. The stars above us dimmed. Ships fell from orbit without damage. People forgot how to fire their weapons. The room went silent. He doesn't need guns. He is one. Thalon Brake's proto-Calthalan burst into the chamber with the archive files. This is not a man, she shouted. He's a living voice bomb. He bends reality with his words. That's why Earth never used him again. The delegates stared at her. She walked up to the human Elias Creed, placed the file on the table. Before him, he didn't even glance at it. Instead, he slowly looked up. For a moment, his eyes met hers. Thalon felt her thoughts fade. Her knees went weak. It was like standing near a storm too big to see. She backed away quickly. Final scene. The first tremble suddenly. Every hologram in the war room flickered. The Korak were on the move again. But not forward. They were retreating. A full fleet of 600 warships turned and vanished into hyperspace. No signal. No reason. Just fear. The assembly sat in stunned silence. Why? Someone asked. Why are they running now? The war map showed an unknown energy reading massive. Centered on the council chamber, the computer voice said, Unnatural reality been detected. Location present. All eyes turned to the man, Elias. Creed finally blinked. The enemy's warships were just hours away from the core worlds, but they were no longer charging forward, they were braking. Running, whispering a name even they feared. The council chamber was frozen. Holograms blinked and shifted across the war map. The Korak horde, once the most terrifying enemy in the galaxy, had stopped advancing. Some fleets had already retreated. Others circled aimlessly. One dreadship self-destructed without reason. The entire assembly stared at the man at the center of the stormy Elias Creed. Earth's silent weapon. He still hadn't spoken. But everything was changing around him. The war map. Brake's General Kalon watched the display in disbelief. The Korok were known for one thing: never retreating. They moved like machines, fought until every enemy was dead, or every one of them was destroyed. But now, red dots were disappearing from the map. System K-17. Dawn, Dreadship Shroud Splitter. Offline. Hive Cluster 9. Silent. No signal. Kalon muttered, "This is not battle strategy. This is fear." The lights dimmed, the voice that wasn't heard. Lias Creed sat still, no movement. No sound, but something had changed. Around him, the air felt different. War generals grew tense. Ambassadors grew quiet. Machines nearby buzzed and flickered. One security drone suddenly lost balance and dropped from the air. No one touched him. No one could even approach him. The only sound was the war map updating in real-time Korak units pulling back. Others freezing in space. It wasn't war anymore. It was confusion, panic, collapse, and the weapon causing it all hadn't even spoken. The old alien's confession: an elder named Zura, from a long-lost desert world destroyed 2 centuries. Ego stood up from the corner seat. His skin was dry, and his voice cracked with age. "I was there," he said. "When the blood wars ended." The chamber turned to him. Zura continued. "The humans had been fighting for years. Nothing worked then. One man was dropped on the battlefield. No name, no command team. Just a whisper sent through the enemy line." He looked directly at Elias Creed. "That whisper killed 1,000,000 minds. The Korak Queen reacts across the galaxy in the center of the Korak swarm. The Korak Queen mind floated inside her thought core. Her body was made of metal and black nerves. Her thoughts echoed across the hive fleet, but now, the first time in known history, she trembled. Her mind scanners reached toward the signal source, and what she found shocked her: a mind that did not respond. A mind not bound by normal thought. A silence so deep it bent reality. She felt pain. She screamed. And her scream was heard across to entire sectors. Every Korak vessel shuddered at once. Then, one by one, they began to turn around. The council falls apart back at the assembly. Panic returned. Ambassadors shouted, "He is causing psychic damage across the galaxy. We must remove him now." No, he's the only thing holding them back. Earth remained silent, and Elias Creed still said nothing. Then, Thalen stepped forward. "We asked for help," she said. "Earth warned us this was the cost." She turned to the rest of the chamber. "He isn't killing them. They're killing themselves just from knowing he exists." The first attempt, a braver, foolish Growlin general, tried to test the theory. He ordered a small robotic AI drone to hover near Elias and scanned his brain for psychic activity. The drone lasted 2.4 seconds, then it shattered. Not exploded, not burned. It simply broke into 1,000,000 tiny pieces, like sand. Everyone stopped breathing. Elias didn't move. But on the War Map 6, more Korak dreadships vanished. The whisper begins. A low sound filled the chamber. Not from speakers, not from machines. It was not language. It was not song. It was a whisper. A strange, low hum vibrating in the bones of everyone present. "Not painful, but deeply unnatural," Kalon whispered. "He's starting to charge." Thalen backed away. "No, not yet." General alarms rang. The assembly's computer voice announced, "High-grade psychic resonance detected. Core worlds at risk. Known. Vocal buildup, matching project silence, historical patterns." Someone screamed, "He's going to speak." But then Elias Creed slowly exhaled, and the sound stopped. The whisper faded. The war map froze. Not a single Korak ship moved anymore. Final scene. The Queen's word and the Korak flagship. The Queen Mind gathered her remaining commanders. Only one word passed between them. Not a command, not a plan, just a name. Creed. The Korak hive began full retreat. The war was ending, but not by battle. by fear of a voice not yet heard. The Korak came to destroy a core world, but they never made it to the surface. The sky turned red, their minds shattered, and across 1 billion screens. One word echoed in their own language: run. The planet Veltora was ready to fall. It was a vital core world home to over 10 billion citizens, scientists, and soldiers. Ships had been evacuating for days. Most people had nowhere to go. The last defense fleet hovered above the planet like a shield, but they knew the truth. They couldn't stop what was coming. The Korak invasion begins on the edge of Veltora's orbit. The Korak appeared. Hundreds of black ships tore through space like blades. Massive living dreadships pulsed with red energy. War beasts, grown in deep space, latched onto the fleet. In the center was their flagship, 20 kilometers long, covered in rotating bio-metal. Sensors failed the moment they arrived. Veltora's defense systems lit up with red alerts. Every admiral knew what this meant. This was the final stand. The first strike, the defense fleet opened fire. Plasma cannons, torpedo bursts, gravity mines all launched at once. For 5 seconds, it looked like they had a chance. Then the sky cracked. The Korak returned fire not with weapons, but with raw disruption waves. Entire battleships folded in on themselves. Crews screamed as their minds were sliced apart. Communications failed. One station commander began laughing uncontrollably and didn't. Stop. Veltora's cities watched in horror from the ground. And then it happened. The red sky high above the surface, a strange light began to form. It wasn't coming from the Korak or the defense fleet. It came from space itself. The sky turned red, deep red, as if something was bleeding through the stars. The clouds shimmered. Gravity shifted. People looked up and felt a pressure in their minds, like something was watching from beyond time. Birds fell from the sky. Then, silence. One word. Every screen, every ship console, every open comm channel across the system suddenly turned black. Then, a single word appeared on all of them. Not in human language, not in the assembly's tongue. It was in Korak script. Run. The Korak break inside the hive ships. Korak warriors screamed in confusion. Their linked minds began to glitch. Command nodes melted into liquid. War beasts tore into their own hulls. A transmission burst through the hive networker signal. Not from the Korak queen, but from somewhere, inside their minds. A voice without sound. Command without source. One Korak warlord tried to resist. He activated self-destruct before he could finish. His brain exploded inside his armored skull. The queen's collapsed far across the stars. The Korak queen mind was connected to all of them. She felt the infection spreading. Not a virus, not code, a presence, a word, and then a voice. She had heard it once, long ago. During the ancient expansion wars, when the Korak first met Earth, one human had spoken. One the Korak lost. 40% of their hive before they sealed him in deep space. Now that voice had returned. The queen screamed, and then she was gone. Veltora Septov Veltora. The sky slowly returned to normal. The stars came back. Gravity settled. Every single Korak ship had vanished. No wreckage. No remains. Just gone. Some said they fled into deep space. Others said something pulled them out of existence. But everyone agreed Veltora had been saved without a single shot fired. Back at the assembly, the Galactic Assembly watched all of it through emergency feeds. The map showed it clearly. The Korak fleet disappeared in less than 2 minutes. The council room was silent. Then the computer voice spoke. Signal origin detected. Location: Assembly Hall. Subject: Elias Creed. All eyes turned to the man. He hadn't moved. He hadn't spoken. But in the distance, entire star systems were going quiet. The Korak vanished. Thalan's realization. Thalan stood in the corner. Shaking, she finally understood. It wasn't him who saved Veltora, she whispered. It was the fear of him speaking. Kalen nodded slowly. He hasn't said a word. But the galaxy is already changing. Final scene. A dangerous thought from deep space. A rogue science station recorded a strange reading. A ripple in space. No weapon. No energy burst, just a vocal signature. One so powerful it left scars in subspace. The lead scientist looked at the reading. This was just a whisper, he said. He didn't even speak yet. The Korak Queen tried to fight back, but her scream never reached the stars. Across 3 sectors, fleets shattered, minds broke, and weapons failed. And it all began the moment he spoke. Veltora was still standing. Billions had watched the sky turn red. Billions had watched it fade. And now, billions waited, asking the same question. What just happened? No one could answer. Not the admirals, not the diplomats, not even Earth. Only one being knew what was coming next, and he was still sitting in the Galactic Council chamber, silent. Unmoving, barely breathing, Elias Creed, the Queen's last command across the stars, deep in the black heart of the Korak. Hive sector, the Queen mind remained alive but barely. Her core had split. Her thoughts were broken. She pulsed with pain and confusion. The Hive could still hear her. But her words came out like static, desperate. She gathered the remaining fleet's 47 dreadships, thousands of war beasts, and her last 7 mind nodes. Her order was simple. Kill. The voice. Her ships turned. They moved toward the assembly. Earth's final warning in the council chamber. Earth sent a single live transmission. The face of Earth's High Commander appeared, tired, calm. This is your final warning. She said, do not engage him.
Wow.
Do not question him. Do not ask him to speak. A Grallan general stepped forward. Already spoke, didn't he? He said something to the Korak. The commander nodded. A word, a whisper. Just enough to break their mind net. And if he says more? Alien asked. The Earth commander didn't answer right away. Then she spoke 3 words. Worlds will end. The arrival of the final fleet a day later. Korak returned. Their ships ripped into real space near the Council's star sector. They came fast, furious, ready to destroy. The assembly watched from high orbit. Weapons were powered. Defenses activated. But nothing would stop what was about to happen. Inside the council chamber, Elias Creed stood. For the first time, he moved with purpose. The voice unleashed. Elias stepped to the center of the room. Everyone backed away. Even the guards lowered their weapons. He closed his eyes. The air became still. Time felt slower. Some delegates swore they could hear a deep hum under their feet, like the stars themselves were waiting. Then, Elias Creed spoke just 2 words, 2 syllables. Quiet, but powerful enough to crack the dome glass of the chamber without touching. It, across space, every Korak ship heard it not through comes. Not through sound, but in their minds. The collapse begins. The Korak. Queen tried to resist. She screamed, but her scream turned against her. Ore beasts began to melt. Her dread ships folded into black holes. Her 7 mind nodes went silent one by one. One of her captains broke apart into particles before he could even activate his weapon. On the sensors of nearby Earth ships, the entire Korak fleet appeared to freeze and then vanished. No explosion, no escape, just gone. Inside the council, everyone in the room had dropped to their knees. Some were crying, others held their heads. Shaking one delegate from the moon colony, Jarn, collapsed and didn't wake up for 5 minutes. Elias said nothing else. He returned to his seat.com still, but now. They understood. The computer's report. The Assembly's AI activated emergency reports. Korak Queen signature. Offline. All Korak fleets. Disconnected. No hostile movement in 89 known sectors. Voice event logged. Level Omega Omega. General Kalen read it out loud, then looked up and said, he ended them. With 2 words. What did he say? No one in the council remembered what Elias said. Some claimed it was sleep. Others believed it was fall. Few couldn't even remember the sound at all. That's when Thalen realized it wasn't meant for us. She whispered too. Herself, the Korak were never defeated. They were told to stop, and they obeyed. Final scene, the new fair across the galaxy. The news spread. The war was over. But the question echoed across every station, world, and empire. What happens if? He speaks again. Some celebrated, others feared. A few began to demand Elias be locked away again, sealed forever. But one thing was clear. The most dangerous weapon in the galaxy was human. He had only spoken once. The Korak were gone. The war was over. But as the galaxy celebrated, Earth remained silent. And deep below the surface of the blue planet, something was still locked away. The Korak fleets had vanished. Their queen mind was dead. Their horde, once thought unstoppable, had crumbled in a single moment. Elias Creed spoke 2 words. That was all it took, the Galactic Assembly declared. Peace. Billions across hundreds of systems cheered, rebuilt, and mourned. But Earth didn't send a message. No congratulations. No pride, no response at all. They shut their coms. They closed their borders. And for the first time since joining the Assembly, Earth went dark. Assembly demands answers, sighed the council chamber. Confusion returned. Ambassadors shouted, "Why is Earth hiding now? They just ended the war. Why not lead us?" "What other weapons are they hiding?" Thalen stood quietly, watching Elias Creed. He hadn't spoken since the battle. He hadn't moved. But something told her. Earth wasn't afraid of him. They were afraid of what came next. General Cullen's memory. General Cullen sat in silence, reading an old file from the Blood Wars. It was stamped Earth Black Code Level 0 for human eyes. ONLY he shouldn't have had it? Back then, in the middle of chaos, many rules had been broken. The file told of an experiment, not the creation of a super soldier, but the discovery of one. A child born on Earth, tested for psychic patterns. At age 5, he accidentally ended a thunderstorm with a cry. At age 7, his voice caused machines to record 2 seconds of future data. And at 12, he was taken by something called the Silence Vault. The file ended with one line. He must never be awakened, not unless Earth itself is ending. Thalen's journey to Earthalon made a decision. She requested access to travel to Earth. The Assembly tried to block it, but Earth's silence forced their hand. With a small shuttle, she flew alone. When she entered Earth space, she expected to be stopped. Instead, her ship was guided by a silent AI system she didn't recognize. No words. No directions, just coordinates. She followed. The Silence Vault she landed in an abandoned part of northern Syrians, known as Siberia. Snow fell. No cities. No people. Just cold. A hatch opened in the ground. It led deep underground as she stepped into the darkness. The temperature dropped. Lights flickered on as she passed, one by one. Then she reached it. A black door made of some kind of living metal. Symbols she didn't understand were carved across it. Above the door, words in Earth's old language, "Here lies silence. Open." Only in extinction. The room of one voice, the door slid open on its own. Inside was a single chair. No lights, no weapons. Just a simple steel room and a screen. It lit up with a message as she entered. "You are not authorized." Then a second message appeared underneath. But he already woke up. The truth revealed back in the Assembly. Panic grew. Elias Creed still sat in the council chamber, still quiet, but Earth's sensors now showed something disturbing. A new energy spike. Not from him, from somewhere else, another. Signature similar, but deeper. Buried the Council AI pulled emergency data from Earth's hidden archives and displayed a file that shocked everyone. AI, a second codename, Project Omega. If Elias speaks, Omega stirs. The other silence of Thalen walked deeper into the vault. Behind a second sealed door, she found something Earth never shared. A second CRYO pod. Inside was a figure, human-shaped, skin pale, eyes closed. But unlike Elias, this one had a symbol burned. Across its chest, Omega suddenly. The pod lights turned yellow, and the floor trembled. Final scene, the voice wakes in the council. Elias Creed finally turned his head. His lips moved. but no sound came out. Still, every translator pinged one word: he's waking. And from Earth's buried vault, the other figure opened its eyes. They glowed with light not of this galaxy. The silence was ending. The Korak Queen tried to fight back, but her scream never reached the stars. Across 3 sectors, fleets shattered, minds broke, and weapons failed. And it all began the moment he spoke. Veltora was still standing. Billions had watched the sky turn red. Billions had watched it fade. And now billions waited, asking the same question. What just happened? No one could answer. Not the admirals. Not the diplomats. Not even Earth. Only one being knew what was coming next, and he was still sitting in the Galactic Council chamber, silent. Unmoving, barely breathing, Elias Creed, the Queen's last command across the stars, deep in the black heart of the Korak. Hive sector, the Queen mind, remained alive but barely. Her core had split. Her thoughts were broken. She pulsed with pain and confusion. The Hive could still hear her. But her words came out like static, desperate. She gathered the remaining fleet's 47 dreadships, thousands of war beasts, and her last 7 mind nodes. Her order was simple: kill. The voice. Her ships turned. They moved toward the assembly. Earth's final warning in the council chamber. Earth sent a single live transmission. The face of Earth's high commander appeared wrinkled, tired, calm. This is your final warning. She said, do not engage him. Do not question him. Do not ask him to speak. A Grallan general stepped forward. He already spoke, didn't he? He said something to the Korak. The commander nodded. A word, a whisper. Just enough to break their mind, and if he says more. The alien asked. The Earth commander didn't answer right away. Then she spoke 3 words. Worlds will end. The arrival of the final fleet a day later, the Korak returned. Their ships ripped into real space near the Council's star sector. They came fast, furious, ready to destroy. The assembly watched from high orbit. Weapons were powered, defenses activated. But nothing would stop what was about to happen. Inside the council chamber, Elias Creed stood, for the first time. He moved with purpose. The voice unleashed. Elias stepped to the center of the room. Everyone backed away. Even the guards lowered their weapons. He closed his eyes. The air became still. Time felt slower. Some delegates swore they could hear a deep hum under their feet, like the stars themselves were waiting. Then Elias Creed spoke just 2 words, 2 syllables, quiet but powerful enough to crack the dome glass of the chamber without touching. Across space, every Korak ship heard it, not through comms, not through sound, but in their minds. The collapse begins. The Korak Queen tried to resist. She screamed, but her scream turned against her. Her war beasts began to melt. Her dreadships folded into black holes. Her 7 mind nodes went silent one by one. One of her captains broke apart into particles before he could even activate his weapon. On the sensors of nearby Earth ships, the entire Korak fleet appeared to freeze and then vanished. No explosion, no escape, just gone. Inside the council, everyone in the room had dropped to their knees. Some were crying, others held their heads. Shaking one delegate from the moon colony Jarn collapsed and didn't wake up for 5 minutes. Elias said nothing else. He returned to hisseat.com, still, but now. They understood. The computer's report. The Assembly's AI activated emergency reports. Korak Queen's signature. Offline. All Korak fleets. Disconnected. No hostile movement in 89 known sectors. Voice event logged. Level Omega Omega. General Kalen read it out loud, then looked up and said, he ended them. With 2 words. What did he say? No one in the council remembered what Elias said. Some claimed it was sleep. Others believed it was fall. A few couldn't even remember the sound at all. That's when Thalen realized it wasn't meant for us. She whispered to herself. The Korak were never defeated. They were told to stop. and they obeyed. Final scene, the new fare across the galaxy. The news spread. The war was over. But the question echoed across every station, world, and empire. What happens if he speaks again? Some celebrated, others feared. A few began to demand Elias be locked away against sealed forever. But one thing was clear. The most dangerous weapon in the galaxy was human, and he had only spoken once. The Korak were gone. Peace had returned. But below Earth, the second silence had awakened, and in the skies above, stars began to vanish. The council chamber was silent. Elias Creed stood for the second time. His face was calm, his eyes distant. He didn't move fast. He didn't look afraid, but around him, everything trembled. The war had ended with 2 words. But now, something far older was rising, and even Elias looked concerned. The stars go dark in deep space. Exploration ships started sending emergency signals. Then they stopped, not from attack, from disappearance. Entire systems lost light. The planets blinked off scanners. Satellites collapsed into themselves. Astronomers stared at the readings in disbelief. The universe wasn't breaking, it was being silenced. That is escape underground on Earth. Thalen ran. The pod had opened. The second figure had stepped out, and it hadn't spoken, but the sound of nothing followed it, deafening, crushing silence. She raced toward the surface, heart pounding, her cum buzzed. Council emergency line. Colin's voice. Thalen, what's happening down there? She answered with shaking hands. Earth didn't create Elias Creed. They found him. And the other one? He asked. Thalen whispered. They buried it for a reason. It's not silence. It's the end of sound itself. The Omega silence in the assembly, screens flashed. New anomaly detected, centered on Earth. Signature. Matches no known energy. Potential collapse of quantum structure in nearby space. Then came the final alert. Omega signature rising. Elias Creed turned slowly to face the council. Everyone stood back. He looked at General Kalon. And finally, after days of silence, Elias spoke. Just one sentence. Clear, quiet, heavy. You thought I was the last word. The voice of Omega crossed Earth. The skies cracked. People heard nothing but still felt everything. No explosions, no screams, just silence. So loud it made hearts stop. The second figure walked across Earth's crust like it was paper. Reality bent around it. Satellites fell. Oceans shifted. Birds froze mid-air, and all of it came from just one thing. The Omega silence had spoken. Earth's final protocol, hidden AI deep inside Earth's crust, activated. A warning never meant to be used. Speech limit reached. Voice protocol Creed. Lockdown. Voice protocol Omega. Terminate. But it was too late. Omega wasn't a weapon. It was a concept. A living end to all sound, to all meaning, to all communication. Ilias's choice in the council chamber, Elias Creed vanished, not teleported. He simply out of existence. Seconds. Later, he appeared on Earth, standing before Omega. 2. Humans. One, the voice that ended a war. The other, the silence that could. In reality, they looked at each other, and for the first time, Creed spoke directly to him. No one could hear the words, but the effect was instant. Omega stopped, paused, and sat down. The last sentence, Creed placed a hand on Omega's shoulder. He turned his face to the sky and he said one last thing. Enough. The stars stopped flickering. Earth held its breath. The galaxy survived. 1 year later, the war was over. The assembly rebuilt. The Korak never returned. The core worlds were safe, but Earth remained silent, closed, quiet, alone. Elias Creed was never seen again, neither was Omega. Final scene, a message in the stars on the edge of the galaxy. Explorers discovered a signal. It repeated every 88 seconds. Not a voice, not a threat, just text. He spoke only once. That was all it took. And underneath, "Do not ask again." The end. Thank you for watching. He spoke only once. Then. The war ended. Full HFY sci-fi story. Subscribe for more human-focused sci-fi stories.